This is your first Q&A. Time writing at 120 words per minute. Your proper names are Unigen, Ms. Mercado, Maddie Kahn, Jimmy Luong, January, Maddie's, Jimmy's, March, Empire Computers, Mr. Dyer, and Asa. Ready? Were you serving as the go-to person in that?
No, I didn't go rob the place. I knew who did it.
Were you involved in the planning of the robbery?
Yes.
Was that robbery before or after Unigen?
I don't remember.
You have no recollection of the robbery?
It was after the Unigen robbery.
Now, I think you told us in your testimony in response to questions by Ms. Mercado that Maddie Kahn was in charge of the Unigen robbery. Is that correct?
Yes.
To your knowledge, was anyone else involved in that one?
Like I said, I don't know.
You didn't have any contact with Jimmy Luong before the Unigen robbery, did you?
No.
And I think you said yesterday that Maddie Kahn gave you a list of places and Unigen was on that list.
That is correct.
Jimmy Luong didn't give you a list that had Unigen on it at that same time, did he?
No, he gave me a list much later.
And that was in January of 2014. Is that correct?
Like I said, I don't remember the date.
There was a meeting before the Unigen robbery, wasn't there?
Yes.
That meeting was at the Maddie's apartment, wasn't it?
That is correct. There was also a meeting at Jimmy's apartment.
Was Jimmy Luong at either of those meetings?
No.
In March of 2015, you participated in the robbery of a second Unigen location, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who were you working for at that time?
I don't remember.
Then about 2 weeks later, on the 29th of March, you participated in another robbery at Empire Computers, didn't you?
That is correct.
Actually, Mr. Dyer, didn't you rob Empire Computers twice?
Yes, I did.
And was there a long passage of time between the two robberies?
Like I said, I don't remember the times and dates.
I understand. My question is, did you rob it twice?
Yes, I did.
Were you successful in robbing it twice?
Yes.
The first time you robbed Empire Computers, am I correct that you actually hijacked a truck that was parked in their company lot?
That is correct.
The driver was in the truck at the time, wasn't he?
Yes.
You drove the truck out of the lot with the driver in it, didn't you?
Yes.
Was the driver in the front or the back of the truck?
He was in the back. I put him in the back and locked it.
You were the one driving the truck, weren't you?
Yes.
Did you have other people working with you that day?
Yes.
Did any of them get in the back of the truck with the driver?
Yes.
Did the person who got in the back with the driver have a gun?
Yes.
Did you have a gun?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you've had a gun on you in every robbery you've committed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So in that case, the hijacking of the truck in order to rob it was also a kidnapping, wasn't it?
I mean, like I said, I put him in the back of the truck and drove off.
Do you understand what kidnapping is, Mr. Dyer?
Yes. It's to take someone away from their location against their will.
You weren't looking for Jimmy Luong when you hijacked that truck and kidnapped the driver, were you?
No,
Who were you working for?
like I said, I don't remember.
Now, in April of 2015, you robbed a place called Asa, didn't you?
Yes, I robbed an Asa.
Who were you working for at? This is your second Q&A time writing at 120 words per minute. Your proper names are the coach, Ricky Steves, Ricky, Mr. Silva, Delio, Reggie, Mr. Lorca, Ms. Stevens, and Belinda. Ready? What sort of jobs did you perform when you worked at the coach?
I usually worked the pasta station side by side with the person doing that.
On those days, how many hours long was your shift?
My shift was always 8 hours, but I would spend maybe 2 or 3 at each station.
Are the stations front of house or back of house?
Front.
Were there also days when you worked in the kitchen?
Yes.
Were you an assistant chef?
I always worked with one of the chefs doing prep work.
What was a normal shift like at the coach for Ricky Steves?
Ricky always worked in the kitchen. Everyone worked 8-hour shifts.
Were there different hours for the various shifts?
Yes. Some worked 6 to 2 and some worked 7 to 3.
Was there a paid lunch hour on either of those shifts?
No, it was a quick half hour.
What shift would Mr. Silva work when he was at the coach?
It varied. He was usually there at least 10 hours a day.
Did Delio and Reggie also work the same hours as you did?
Mostly, yes.
Would they come to work at the same time?
No, Delio always opened and Reggie always closed.
Did they normally work an 8-hour shift?
Yes, they did.
Do you recall what shift Mr. Lorca worked?
He was usually there by 8 and left by 3.
You mentioned that Ms. Steves worked a normal 8-hour shift, correct?
Yes.
Where would Mr. Silva spend most of his time when he was present?
He would be on the floor or in the kitchen.
How much time did he spend in the kitchen versus on the floor?
I can't say. I don't know.
On a typical day, would you say he split his time between the two?
I don't know. I was always in the kitchen.
Did all of the managers at the coach have their own offices?
Yes, they did.
Did Mr. Silva spend much time in his office?
No, not really. He was always out of his office and taking care of business.
Would he typically be in his office at the end of the day?
Sometimes.
From Mr. Silva's office, was there a view of most of the restaurant?
Yes.
Did Mr. Lorca spend much time in his office?
Yes.
Do you have any idea what he would be doing in his office?
No. None of us could figure that out.
Now, going back to the day of the accident at the coach, what shift were you working that day?
I was on the whole day.
You were on the premises when the accident happened?
Yes, I was.
Did you witness the accident involving Ricky Steves?
Yes, I did.
Can you show me where in the restaurant the accident occurred?
In the bar.
We are speaking of the accident of July 8th, 2013. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about.
Do you know if Ms. Steves had been drinking in the bar on the day of the accident?
Yes, she had been drinking.
Do you know how long she had been in the bar drinking before the accident occurred?
I don't know.
Do you know how much Ms. Steves had to drink on the day of the accident before the accident occurred?
I don't know.
Do you know if she was alone in the bar that day?
She had a friend with her.
Was the friend male or female?
It was her friend, Belinda.
Do you know how I might contact that friend?
I don't.
Sorry, I always have to double check it for my own peace of mind. This is your first Q&A time writing at 100 words per minute. Your proper names are Route 59, Route 14, August, Mr. Cox, Mr. Singer, Mr. Grant, and Joe. Ready? When did you first hear about a reward in this case?
I don't really recall that.
Do you deny to these ladies and gentlemen of the jury that it was after you heard about a reward in this case that you and your brother then talked to the police?
Yes, I do deny that.
Where were you seated in the truck at the time you left the police station?
In the passenger seat.
Can you tell us what route you followed to the place where the accident occurred?
Yes, Route 59 and Route 14.
Were you familiar with that route?
Yes, sir.
About how many times had you been over that route prior to August 4, 1986?
Over 100 times.
All right. After you left the police station, did you make any stops prior to the accident?
Yes.
Can you tell us where you stopped?
In a parking lot.
Can you tell us why Mr. Cox stopped in a parking lot at that time?
Yes, there was a noise in the truck.
Did Mr. Cox get out of the truck?
Yes.
Did you see him do anything when he got out of the truck?
No. He just looked at the truck.
Did you get out of the truck also?
Yes.
What did you do when you got out?
I just walked around the truck.
Did you notice anything?
No.
Mr. Singer, while you were waiting with Mr. Grant in the doctor's waiting room, did you see a gun?
No, sir.
You are sure of that?
I'm positive.
Didn't he show you a gun and tell you he was going to hold up the doctor?
No, he did not.
You are sure of that?
Yes, sir.
You say you saw a gun in his hand while he was facing the doctor?
No, he was facing me.
He was facing you?
Yes, sir.
Then he turned around?
Yes, sir. A shot went off and he turned away from me.
A shot went off when?
When he had the gun in my face.
When you turned around, he was facing the doctor with that gun, wasn't he?
When I turned around?
When he turned around, You say he turned away from you?
Yes, he did turn away from me.
Then he was facing the doctor?
Yes, because the doctor was behind him.
The answer is yes.
Yes,
How much money did you get in the robbery?
I think it was about $185.
Who got the $185?
Joe got it.
Did you get any of the money?
No, because we had to give it all to Joe to help him along. He couldn't go home.
How much were you to get before all this started when you were talking about it?
We didn't make up anything because we didn't know what the doctor had.
Were you to get a third or 50% or what?
I was supposed to get a third of it.
When you looked, battery?
Yep. Shoot, and I never even watched. Pause it.
This is your second Q&A time writing at 100 words per minute. Your proper names are Florida, April, Special Ed, Terry, Savoy, and Essex. Ready? In terms of the work outside the home, that is mowing the grass, raking, things of that nature, did you have to do that?
Yeah, not as often as cleaning, but we have all done it.
And who assigned those sort of job responsibilities outside the house?
Mom or dad.
With regard to the things inside that you had to do, the cleaning, the scouring, whatever it was you said you had to do daily, are those things you cannot do now?
I can do them. It just takes me longer. I take more breaks.
And why does it take longer?
Because of my hip. I got a lot of pain with it. It gives out.
And this is your right hip?
Yes.
Did you have, other than the softball that you would do during the summer months and spring, were there any other sort of regular forms of exercise or activities that you engaged in before the accident?
I don't think so.
Do you remember when the last vacation was that your family went on?
Florida, but
Was that before or after the accident?
it was before.
Now, you told me a little bit about the fact that sometime in the second grade or third, during that period of time, you had been diagnosed as having a learning disability as a result of your belief of some seizure that you had as a child. By the time this accident happened in April 1997, have you been diagnosed with any kind of chronic disease or illness that you are aware of?
No.
Were you, while you were in high school, in any sort of special education classes?
Yes. I was in special ed class.
Could you tell me, was that in your senior year?
in my junior year. I was taken out because they wanted to mainstream me, and there was no way I could be mainstreamed out to a regular class. So I did homeschooling from my junior year to the end of my senior year. I graduated doing homeschooling.
And that was some point in your junior year through your senior year.
It was in the beginning of my senior year.
So the last 2 years of high school, you did homeschooling.
Yes,
Who conducted that?
it was Terry Savoy, but I'm not sure what the name of the homeschooling was.
I'm sorry. The person, you just gave me a person's name.
It was Terry Savoy. She was the one that taught me.
She was somebody that came to your home.
I went to her home.
Where does she live?
She lives right outside of Essex. I'm not sure exactly what her road is.
Is that an address that you could get for me and give to your lawyer?
Yes,
Were you at the time of this accident on any medication prescribed by any doctor?
not at that time, no.
Were you under the care of any doctor for any reason at the time of the accident?
No,
Have you, say, within the 2 years prior to this accident, been under the care of any physician, doctor? Stop right here, the recording.